It's not a secret that the recent announcement by Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios to not recast T'Challa after the passing of Chadwick Boseman has become an internet discussion. It's dividing the MCU fans on whether they approve or disapprove of it. I'm one of those in the crowd that favors the recast of T'Challa, and I stand firmly on it. Especially after hearing what E-Man has to say from E-Man Reviews and Brandon from Just My Opinion Reviews. I've realized that I'm not the only person who feels this is a bad move on Marvel Studios to not recast a pivotal character like T'Challa. Being a huge comic nerd who grew up reading Marvel and DC comics as a kid, and being a stark supporter of original black characters on the screen, this was a no-brainer. Let's get into the top 11 reasons why I believe T'Challa should be recast in the MCU. The first reason to recast is to keep the legacy of the character going. T'Challa has been a staple character of Marvel Comics since the late 1960s, which means he has at least over 50 years of character development and stories that can be adapted into the screen. Having been erased in the blip makes it even worse that we have not seen enough development of T'Challa as the king he is in the comics. So the second reason is because there's not enough screen time for T'Challa. It's 2021 and he was finally introduced as the Prince of Wakanda in 2016, then finally taking the mantle of king in 2018 for the feature film Black Panther, which chronicled the events that took place directly after the Civil War in 2016. Then seeing him as a full-fledged warrior king in Infinity War, which canonically takes place 2018. That means he only had 2 years to reign as a king, which we didn't see before being erased via Thanos snap for 5 years. That's not enough time for anybody to be able to say we had enough of T'Challa on the screen. The third reason is to honor Chadwick Boseman. I know there's a lot of sentiment that recasting T'Challa would be disrespectful to Boseman, and I can understand that. Yet, I think people are forgetting that the characters are whom the actor and actresses embody, not the other way around. Chadwick understood this, and hence why he chose to play such a powerful character like T'Challa, because we've honestly never had an A-list black superhero portrayed on the screen for all to admire. Even though we had Blade played by Wesley Snipes, it wasn't until the movies that people were interested in making Blade a staple in the comics. Before then, he was considered C-list, as many black characters usually were other than Black Panther up until the late 90s. Chadwick took up the role of T'Challa because he understood the significance it plays for future generations, so that other aspiring actors and actresses can take up roles similar to and or T'Challa himself. I believe he would want another qualified actor, preferably a new and fresh talented actor, to take up the role of T'Challa and to keep the legacy of the character going. The fourth reason is roles get recast all the time. This is why great characters like Superman, Batman, Robin Hood, and even King Arthur have had many iterations throughout cinema. We've had 3 actors portray Spider-Man within the span of 15 years. Why would it be a problem to cast T'Challa in the event of a death? They did it with the Joker when Heath Ledger passed away, also with Andy Whitfield as Spartacus when he passed away from cancer, and then the show went on. Hell, they even did an Aunt Viv move with War Machine and the Hulk, but we're okay with those recasts, right? My fifth reason is Shuri is not worthy. Yet. There's been a lot of talk of Shuri taking the mantle as Black Panther as she did in the comics, and that if you don't approve of it, you're against black women being in lead roles or having shine. I am okay with seeing Shuri taking the mantle. Technically, it doesn't make sense because there are a multitude of issues hindering this from happening. The main issue is that Shuri in the MCU isn't a warrior princess like we had in the comics. The MCU Shuri is more of a lab rat, prankster, not a warrior. If Shuri was a warrior in the MCU, she wouldn't cower at the waterfall ceremony when M'Baku threatened her and Ramonda. Comic Shuri would welcome that fight and be ready to throw hands at the hint of his threat. Shuri is also still a teenager, a pampered little princess who was not groomed to be a ruler like T'Challa was, and she doesn't aspire to rule, while Comic Shuri would jump at the opportunity to lead the nation. My sixth reason is, this doesn't set a good precedent for future black characters. Hollywood has weird politics and will jumble words that can confuse the masses. When an executive like Kevin Feige decides to not recast an important character like T'Challa, it tells me they don't see the value in the character itself. By sticking to the idea of not recasting also means no portrayal of them by any actor, which can lead to things like off-screen deaths, which usually does not fare well for the longevity of a character in a beloved franchise like the MCU. My 7th reason is, there isn't a Black Panther without T'Challa. Although we know the title of Black Panther has been passed down from leader to leader, T'Challa is the Black Panther we all know and love. And without him, the Black Panther would not be known around the world. We wouldn't know of the Sorcerer Supreme if it wasn't for Stephen Strange. Even though in the comics, Brother Voodoo took the mantle briefly in his absence, but nobody is aware of Brother Voodoo like that. So even if T'Chaka, Shuri, and even Killmonger in the comics were Black Panthers at a point, the Black Panther that is mainly recognized by the world is T'Challa. And frankly, in the MCU, we haven't had enough screen time that tells us who T'Challa is for him to pass on the mantle to somebody else like Shuri. At the end of the day, it's not about who's right and who's wrong when it comes to this. Disney and Marvel Studios will do whatever they feel they need to do about it. But it shouldn't mean that we, the fans, shouldn't voice our opinions on what they should do about the products they want us to consume. We're the audience, and without us to support their projects, they can't create effectively. For those of us who are okay without the recast, that's fine. You're allowed your opinion, but you should also be fine with the opposite opinion as well. That's all I had to say about this. You all can find a link to the petition made by E-Man and the YouTube link to the discussion at Just My Opinions video discussing this in the description. If you share my sentiment on the recast, drop a like and share this with everyone who needs to see this. You know the vibes. It's KAIZOKU SLEVEN. Appreciate you.